Hello and welcome to the JSA studio. I'm your host, as always, Nathan, and today we are going to be discussing the Michigan Wolverines defensive backfield and answering some questions such as who is the cornerback 2 and who is going to replace RJ Martin, as well as generally discussing the depth that this position group has. But before we get into that, I just want to say real quick thank you to everyone who has subscribed. We passed 100 subscribers since my last video and this video, which is crazy to me. I mean, my goal for the end of this football season was 100 subscribers, and now I have over 120 as I'm recording this. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who subscribed and for all of the positive comments that I've been getting. But I won't keep you any longer than that, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. To start things off, we're going to talk about the 4 surefire starters that we have on this team heading into the season. And we're going to start with the cornerbacks, starting at the CB1 position, who will probably bounce around and cover the opposing team's best wide receiver. We have Will Johnson, future top 10 draft pick, and playing in the slot we have Mike Sainristil. Both of these players have legitimate cases to be made to be the best at their position in the Big Ten. As far as who is the CB1 for the entire Big Ten Conference, it's either Will Johnson or Kalen King, and that's probably going to come down to your preference on man coverage versus zone coverage. Will Johnson is much better in man coverage, and Kalen King is much better in zone coverage, largely due to the schemes that Penn State and Michigan play. Mike Sainristil, I just think, is the best, or at least heading into the season, just flat out is the best nickel corner in maybe the country, not just the Big Ten. He played at a remarkably high level last year. The only time you really ever saw him get beat is when he was matched up against bigger slot receivers like Emeka Egbuka, who got him a few times in the Ohio State game. But Emeka Egbuka is going to be, in all probability, a top 20 pick this next year, so that's not really a knock that you can put against Mike Sainristil. And by the way, when Will Johnson was covering every one of those Ohio State wide receivers, they didn't do a whole lot in that game. So I genuinely think these are, worst case scenario, 2 players that are top 5, top 10 in the country at their position. Now, the safeties, I think you could also say this might be one of the best safety duos in the whole country as well, but it's a lot less clear-cut to me as far as them being some of the best in the Big Ten. Iowa and Penn State both have some very good safeties on their teams. Starting at the strong safety position, it's going to be Makari Page, and starting at the free safety position, it's going to be Rod Moore. Both of these guys are probable day 2 picks in this upcoming draft, and all Big Ten team candidates. Not sure if that's first, second, or third team, but I think they are candidates to make the all Big Ten teams. Makari Page has the size and athleticism that you're looking for, and the range, to be entirely honest with you. He's probably going to be a really good all-around safety at the next level. Rod Moore is more refined. He's probably going to be somebody who's going to work best in a cover 3 or cover 4 scheme as a free safety, but I expect both of these players to get drafted relatively high at the next level and to be very good and very productive for the University of Michigan in this upcoming season. Now we're going to go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of this video. We're going to be talking about Josh Wallace and Jaden McBurrows, the 2 real contenders in my mind for who's going to end up starting opposite of Will Johnson on the outside at the CB2 position. Josh Wallace, a transfer from UMass. Don Brown is currently the head coach over there, for those of you who don't know that. So we know that he's going to fit the Michigan sort of mentality. Don Brown still is a quality coach. It didn't work out because of his inability to adapt to modern passing offenses, but that doesn't matter so much at UMass. But what did he run when he was at the University of Michigan? He ran press man, and the secondary that we run currently now is also press man. So Josh Wallace is going to be able to step in day 1 and play at a pretty high level without really missing a beat. As for Jaden McBurrows, we got to see him in the spring game where he played very well, really sort of put himself on the map for the general Michigan audience as far as CB2 and potentially just a player who's really good goes. DJ Turner and Jermon Green, who both went to the NFL last year, when asked about who was going to step up in the DB room this next season, they both said Jaden McBurrows. And we have seen this sort of scenario play out before. When Jordan Lewis went to the NFL, he talked about David Long. When David Long went to the NFL, he talked about Lavert Hill. And now, when DJ Turner and Jermon Green are going to the NFL, they're talking about Jaden McBurrows. Now, that is just them talking up their teammate, but there has been sort of a situation where that's kind of been the way that it's worked out, where the guys that the former Michigan players have spoke about have become the next guys to step up and be really, really good. So, who do I think is ultimately going to win this battle? I think it's going to be Jaden McBurrows. I just think that he has way more upside as a player. I think as an athlete, he is someone who has the physical capability to keep up with Ohio State wide receivers and upper level wide receivers, potentially in a college football playoff environment. I just think that he has that athleticism to be able to do that. I think he has the physicality, and he seems like a playmaker. Now, Josh Wallace is also going to play quite a bit. Michigan does, or at least has, under Jim Harbaugh, really liked a three-man rotation at the outside corner position. It's really been the slot corner position where they've had the one guy hold down the fort. So I do believe Josh Wallace is going to get a great amount of playing time. Same with Jaden McBurrows if Josh Wallace ends up being the quote-unquote starter. But I just look at Josh Wallace and I see like Jermon Green and Braden Watson type of player where like when they're playing mid-level Big Ten teams or bad teams, they look really, really good and seem like real options. And then the second they get on the field with anybody that can even dream about playing in the NFL, they just get exposed horribly. Maybe I'm wrong about Josh Wallace. That's a perfectly legitimate idea to have, that I could be wrong about this. I didn't think Jermaine Green or Mike Morris was going to get drafted. They both got drafted this past year. So I'm not 100% certain of things like this, but I am giving you what I believe is an informed opinion. But it is still an opinion and nothing more than that. Now let's go ahead and move on to the depth and potentially the future starters after this season. Starting with the backup safeties. Keon Saab will probably fill that R.J. Morton third safety role where he can come in and give either one of the starting safeties, Rod Moore or Makari Page, a bit of a break and fill in their role admirably. Zeke Berry will likely be the backup in both the free safety position and the slot position. He did rep at the slot position in the spring game, so he's probably the backup there, as well as being the backup free safety. Keon Saab, I think, has NFL upside as a strong safety. I believe he is either a redshirt freshman or a true sophomore, so he might be a one-and-done starter after next year. Zeke Berry, I believe they were in the same class, but I do think he is a redshirt freshman. And that could be a similar story because Zeke Berry might be the most physically talented safety that we have on the roster. He is explosive, he is very fast, he's sticky in man coverage and shows great instinct in zone coverage. I kind of get shades of Javon Holland back when he was playing for Oregon, and now he's one of the best safeties, all-around safeties in the NFL. So the future of the safety position is in good hands with Keon Saab and Zeke Berry, even after Makari Page and Rod Moore both leave after this year. Now, I don't think we have as much ready-to-play talent at the backup cornerback positions as compared to safety. Like, I think if Rod Moore were to go down, I think Zeke Berry could come in and we wouldn't miss a beat. I think if Makari Page were to go down, Keon Saab could come in and we wouldn't really miss a beat. I think if we lose one of the top three corners, some of these young kids might get exposed a little bit. The two that are the next in line, in my mind, are Miles Pollard and Amorion Walker. These are both height, weight, speed, elite athletes. Pollard is 6'2", 205. He looks the part of like a first round, just oozing traits sort of corner. And Amorion Walker might legitimately be, in terms of pure athleticism, the best athlete on this roster and maybe one of the 5 to 10 best athletes in all of college football. But I don't think either of them are ready to play right now. Neither one looked particularly good in the spring game. In fact, Walker got outright bullied by Peyton O'Leary and some of the other wide receivers. He just didn't know what he was doing. He was splitting time between wide receiver and cornerback last year. They didn't really know where they would need him going forward, and ultimately they decided on him being a corner, which I think was probably the right decision. But the good news for this is that they probably won't have to play this year or even next year, because I doubt Jaden McBurrows is going to be a one and done at the position, and Will Johnson can't leave until next year anyway. So one of these two players is very likely to step up as that third corner that plays a whole lot next year. If I had to guess, I would say it would probably be Walker because of the absurd athleticism and the crazy upside. That being said, I still think Miles Pollard, and just in terms of build and athleticism, has first round corner upside as well. But Amorian Walker has top 5 pick athleticism and upside. So even though they're both great, fantastic athletes, Walker is just on a different level than Miles Pollard. A few more players I want to talk about here in terms of the young guys and the depth guys. Jair Hill, who is a true freshman, might be good enough to push for playing time next year as the corner 3, as opposed to Miles Pollard or Walker. He was a big get for Michigan, and I think a large reason that he committed to Michigan was because he had a real chance of playing early. He may even end up being a primary backup this year. I think he's that good right away, but I am going to put him further down the depth chart because we do still have developmental guys ahead of him that are older and quite possibly further in the process than he is. The second guy I want to talk about is Cody Jones, who was a 4-star recruit, I think, 2 years ago. I think he's a redshirt freshman. He may be the future at the slot corner position. I couldn't find a pic of him really to put up on here, but he may be the starter at the nickel position next year, because that's going to be one of the biggest questions for this football team in 2024 is going to be who's going to replace Mike Sainristil in the slot, because Zeke Berry is probably going to be the backup there this year, but he has to be the starter at free safety next year. So don't really know who's going to be the nickel corner, and Cody Jones might be that player to step up there. Last guy that I'm just going to give a shout out to is Jermaine Green. Jermaine Green's, I think they're twins. Twin brother, might be a little brother situation. He's very likely to be the guy who comes in during blowouts and gets a lot of reps that way. And that is all that I have for you today. Up next, we're going to be doing a coaching staff breakdown. Now, there has been some murmurs on the internet that with Pat Fitzgerald's firing at Northwestern, one of their top targets is going to be Sharon Moore. I hope that between today and Friday, when I upload next, Sharon Moore doesn't actually leave for that job. I think it's very unlikely. I think he would have been way better off taking the Western Michigan head coaching position than he would be at Northwestern. But right now, I still have plans to talk about him as Michigan's offensive coordinator. So look forward to that on Friday. After that, next Tuesday, we will be concluding this sort of Michigan series that we have going on and pulling out a little bit to talk about the Big Ten as a whole conference, maybe predicting the whole season for everybody, every team in the Big Ten, that is, and then probably zoom out even further than that and talk about college football as a whole and some of my opinions. I might do a top 25. I might do Heisman candidates. Go ahead and let me know down in the comment section if you are interested in any of that sort of stuff. With all that being said, go ahead and like if you liked the video, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and if you disagreed with me at any point in the video or you just have something to say, go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section below. But let's keep it civil. After all, what do I know? I'm just some asshole. and I'll see you next time.